From Royal Communications Incorporated, good afternoon and welcome to King's Newsroom, 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. Story we following here this afternoon. Office of former President George Weah rejects Liberia National Police apologies for unprofessional conduct of its officers, described as unsolicited apology and potentially harboring ulterior political and sinister motives. Montserrat County Senator Abraham Darius Dillon urges Supreme Court of rendering a confused decision into the House of Representatives leadership conflict, says the Senate recognized Rachel Cohn as Speaker to maintain President Joseph Boakar's legacy. Days after first presidential media dinner, several Liberian journalists claim being blacklisted and threatened by government authorities for criticizing the event. Away from Liberia, the Trump administration has said it is freezing more than $2 billion in federal funds for Harvard University hours after elite college rejected a list of demands from the White House. More than 400 people have been killed in recent attacks by the paramilitary rapid support forces in South Sudan's Darfur region, says the UN, citing credible sources. We take a break to be back. Thanks for rejoining us and welcome back. Former President George Weah has rejected a term as unsolicited, unwarranted the National Police purported public apologies for the unprofessional conduct of officers. Recently, during the Coalition for Democratic Change Deal Pavement rallied at its headquarters in Congo Town, heavily armed officers of the Liberian National Police were seen deployed around the premises of the CDC's headquarters, something considered an intimidation of members of the opposition political party. A statement issued Monday by the office of the former president emphasized that no complaint was lodged with the LNP regarding the conduct of the security personnel at the event or any transgression for that matter. The statement added that as such, the office of the former president views the LNP's unsolicited apology as unwarranted and potentially harboring ulterior political and sinister motives. We at office also clarified that contrary to the Liberian National Police claims, all security personnel who are assigned and designated by the state tasked with protecting former President George Weah conducted themselves professionally throughout the peaceful and well-organized rally. The statement, however, blasted the LNP for relying on social media and informal reports, further challenging the police and other security agencies to strictly adhere to their professional mandates and avoid politicizing their roles. Meanwhile, the statement reiterated that while the former president remains law-abiding, he will not tolerate attempts by state entities to employ deception or unprofessional tactics to engage in intimidation. Sources within the executive mansion has revealed that serial Liberian journalists have been blacklisted following their public criticism of the recent presidential outdoor media dinner hosted by President Joseph Newman Boakai at Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's ministerial complex in Congo Town. According to credible insiders, those targeted include Taven Williams, former vice president for the Press Union of Liberia and publisher of the Nation Times, Willie Tukba, president of the Reporters Association of Liberia and reporter for Front Page Africa, and Joseph Tumbe, publisher of the Africa Daily newspaper. Their second criticisms came despite President Boakai's reaffirmation of press freedom and his assertion that criticism is not a threat to democracy, made during his address to media professionals at the event. William publicly criticized the event's organizers for what he described as poor planning, including Tumbe, who also echoed similar sentiments in the PUL's internal chat room and on social media, describing the dinner as disorganized. Tukba, for his part, condemned the exclusion of rural journalists, calling it a disservice to media inclusivity. Additionally, a prominent female journalist whose name remains undisclosed has allegedly played a central role in the reported blacklisting. Our sources claim that she served on the organizing committee and acted in exchange for political favors. The incident has raised fresh concerns about the state of media freedom in Liberia and the treatment of dissenting voices in the press. Renowned human rights lawyer and political leader of the Liberal People's Party, Councillor Tewon Gonglo, has sharply criticized the Bouakai administration over its alleged failure to exercise decisive action against corruption. Speaking Monday during the engagement with members of the University of Liberia Student Unification Party in commemoration of the 46th anniversary of the 1979 riots, Councillor Gonglo emphasized that the protests were rooted in the government's failure to listen to its citizens. Reflecting on the country's socio-political history, Gonglo drew a parallel between the 1979 unrest sparked by a hike in the price of rice and the current economic hardships facing ordinary Liberians under the UP administration. He called on President Joseph Boakai to lead by the example, beginning with a reduction in the size of the presidential convoy. He also stressed that the alleged wasteful spending by the government betrays the administration's campaign promises to prioritize essential sectors such as education, healthcare, agriculture, and infrastructure. The former president of the Liberian National Bar Association stressed that Liberians continue to suffer under dire economic conditions, accusing the Boakai administration of failing to curtail rising corruption. He alleged that high-ranking officials, including ministers, are engaged in widespread theft and that the president lacks the control or will to stop them. The Liberian government is taking steps to extradite a Liberian man named Othello Bruce to the United States to face charges of aggravated statutory rape. According to a request from the U.S. Embassy in Monrovia, Bruce is accused of raping his 14-year-old biological daughter while living in Worcester, Massachusetts. The U.S. grand jury in 2013 indicted Bruce on 12 counts, including 4 for indecent assault. The alleged crimes occurred between December 2010 and March 2012. In response, Liberia Minister of Justice filed an extradition request before the Monrovia City Court, citing a 1937 treaty between both nations. Bruce was served a writ and appeared in court on Monday, April 14, as proceedings begin. Former Vice President Chief Dr. Jewel Howard Taylor has called on members of the Supreme Court bench to rule without fear or favor in the Bill of Information case filed by Imbato Speaker. In a statement, the former Vice President urged the justices to rule with wisdom, impartiality, and courage. Dr. Taylor, who is a member of the Supreme Court Bar, termed the court's impending decision as a defining test for country's democracy, peace, and stability. The former VP, Howard Taylor, further praised the leadership of Chief Justice Yo and her female colleagues for their stewardship of the rule of law while reminding them of their profound responsibility. She noted that the county is at the defining moment. The history will not forget those who choose principle over pressure, truth over silence, and justice over politics, stressing that their ruling should justly be in full accordance with the Constitution and the rule of law. The country's former Vice President cautioned members of the High Court bench to use their ability to rise above external influence, urging them to stand firmly for what is right and fair for the sake of democracy, sustenance of peace in the country. 46 years after the infamous Rest riot in 1979, the former student activist and former senator of River G County has shifted blame on the Chowin party-led government for the outbreak of violence that led to the death of over 250 persons. Commander Wisset said the government should have allowed the demonstration by providing security protection for the protesters. Speaking in an interview, Wisset argued that it was the constitutional rights of members of the Progressive Alliance of Liberia to stage their protest. According to Wisset, the PAL protest created panic for the government, causing them to mobilize the anti-riot unit of the Liberian National Police, which subsequently started the violence. President Joseph Walker has dedicated the newly renovated rehab market in Painesville. Speaking at the ceremony, the Librarian leader said the project is part of the government commitment to improving care infrastructure and addressing the urgent needs of underserved librarians. President Walker lauded the efforts of his government officials for their dedication and vision in bringing this project to fruition. The Librarian leader said the renovation of the rehab market is a testament to what they can achieve when they prioritize the needs of the Liberian citizens. President Walker reaffirmed his commitment to championing initiatives that uplift the standard and well-being of all Liberians. The event was met with joyous celebrations from community members who expressed their gratitude for the renovation. Former employees of AFCOMS in Grand Bassa County have voiced their disappointment and frustration over the company's refusal to remit their Social Security benefits. The workers, some of whom have been with the company since as early as 2010 and as late as 2015, claimed they were previously treated fairly regarding their benefits, but their recent attempts to secure these benefits have been met with resistance from AFCOMS. According to them, the company allegedly informed them that their contributions were paid into the government account, something they said are no longer employed. Their benefits should be paid directly into the personal accounts. Despite engaging the Labor Commission of Grand Bassa County, the workers have since seen no resolution. In response, the former employees have threatened to block all entrances of AFCON's facilities to draw national government attention to their plight and secure their benefits. The situation highlights the challenges faced by workers in ensuring that they receive the social security benefits. The Office of Wapodo County District 1 representative has suspended 3 Chinese mining companies for non-compliance with community development obligations. The suspension of 3 Chinese mining companies followed an investigative audit conducted by the Office of Representative Zina Norman, which uncovered widespread non-compliance with community development obligations. One company was found initiating operations without securing legal approval. The team reviewed the activities of 8 Chinese-owned mining firms operating at various stages ranging from exploration to full-scale extraction across the district. According to the audit findings, 3 of the 8 companies failed to meet even basic memorandum of understanding commitments, including infrastructure development, employment promises to locals, and adherence to environmental standards. Speaking with citizens during the investigation, Mohammed Kana, acting under the directive of Representative Zina Norman, said that investigative team through its survey observed egregious violation in Bayasu community, where a company identified as Cosmos has moved excavators or crutches onto the site without signing an MOU with the local community. However, local residents within the district have welcomed the intervention by Representative Norman, citing long-standing delays in permits made by other mining companies in the district. The citizen named projects such as school renovation and road improvements that were outlined in previous MOUs but has never been delivered. Montserrat County Senator Darius Dillon has accused the Supreme Court of rendering a confused decision in the impasse at the lower house. According to Dillon, the court did not go down well to resolve the crisis at the House of Representatives, and further said the lower house crisis who have damaged President Joseph Walker's legacy if the Liberian Senate had not taken a decision to recognize Representative Richard Kun as Speaker. Dillon also urged that everything regarding Liberia's governance under the Bwaka-Kun administration was at a verge of standstill, something he said would have resulted to subsequent shutdown of the government. Lawyers representing defendant Kenneth Wilson says they are not troubled by prosecuting lawyers' request to the court seeking to admit a videotape as part of evidence in the ongoing legal proceedings at the Monrovia City Court. Defense lawyer Councillor James Coman said despite his objection to the purported videotape which implicated his client to the March 31st, 2025 incident at the Stella Maris University, they still have a strong defense to end this matter before the magisterial court as provided by law. Councillor Coman told our judicial correspondent Monday that the videotape in question was circulated on social media by the victim and her mother, contrary to report that the video was exchanged by defendant Kenneth Wilson following the incident. Councillor Kuman further said that they have sufficient evidence to show that the defendant was provoked by victim Jumel Cassell on March 31st, 2025. The defense lawyer also alleged that victim Jumel Cassell has a violent history. As such, they will build their case theory around provocation and self-defense during the trial at the Moria City Court. The defense lawyer's account comes at the time when Magistrate Ben Bako is expected to rule on Tuesday, April 15, 2025, on prosecuting lawyers' request seeking to admit the videotape evidence. Our judicial correspondent said on April 8, 2025, defendant Kenneth Wilson purported or reported to her criminal rate a not guilty plea, thereby shifting the burden of proof on prosecuting lawyers to simple assault and disorderly conduct consistent with Chapter 25, Section 25.5 of the Criminal Procedure Law of Liberia. Montserrat County District 3 representative is calling on the citizenry to petition the Liberian government to withhold the salaries and benefits of all members of the House of Representatives if they refuse to abide by the Supreme Court's pending ruling in the Bill of Information filed by the Battle House Speaker Funati Kofa. Kofa has since filed a bill of information to the Supreme Court seeking clarification of the ultra-virus decision reached on the stalemate at the House of Representatives. However, the majority bloc has interpreted the ultra-virus to suit their respective desires, which many presidents have described as prolonging the crisis at the House of Representatives. Speaking when he appeared on the nighttime heat on Prime FM, Representative Sumo Moba said there is no need for Liberians to take the bull to take the bull by the horn by petitioning the Liberian government to withhold the salaries of all lawmakers from both the majority and minority blocs as a way of sending strong message. Grand Cook County Senator Albert Chie has mandated local authorities of the county to crack down on all illicit mining activities. The Senate Pro Tem Emeritus mandate is as a result of what is believed to be rampant illegal mining across Grand Cook County. The Grand Cook County political godfather said it is no secret that foreigners and Liberians, including inhabitants of Grand Cook, been involved in unauthorized mining activities. Senator Chie has at the same time stressed the urgent need for a comprehensive security and regulatory measures to curb exploration and safeguard the county minerals. Senator Chie further cautioned residents of Grand Cook to desist from harboring illicit miners in their respective communities, at the same time citing concerns about their negative impacts on the environment. He made the call during an official program held in Barclayville City, Grand Cook County. Majority of the members at the National Executive Committee of the Liberia Marketing Association have distanced themselves from an alleged unilateral decision by the LMA president to suspend the board chair. According to the release issued on Friday, the majority of the National Executive Committee members termed the suspension of Patrick Jolo by Madam Elizabeth Sambola as an affront to the entity's constitution. The release quoted the majority of the LMA Executive Committee members as saying that their decision followed an in-house meeting in which Madam Samuel allegedly appealed to them to ensure the suspension of the board chair was possible. However, they added that the appeal from the entity's president conflicted with Article 5, Section 2 of the LME Constitution, which, among other things, mandates them to ensure the association is peaceful at all times, and as such, they advised her to disregard the decision. The LMA National Executive Committee members also indicated through its publication that the board chair had done nothing wrong to warrant such action. The ongoing disagreement among leaders of the Liberia Marketing Association arose in the wake of a series of corruption allegations against the president and other leaders. What if you just joining us? A reminder you listening to King's News, run a 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. Today is Tuesday, April 15, 2025, and I'm Newton to represent this afternoon edition. Stories we're following here this afternoon. Office of former President George Weah rejects Liberia National Police apology for unprofessional conduct of its officers, describes as unsolicited apology and potentially harboring ulterior political and sinister motives. Montserrat County Senator Abraham Darius Dillon elected Supreme Court of rendering a confused decision into the House of Representatives leadership conflict, says the Senate recognized Richard Kun as Speaker to maintain President Joseph Boakar's legacy. This after first presidential media dinner, several Liberian journalists claim being blacklisted and threatened by government authorities for criticizing the event. Away from Liberia, the Trump administration has said it is freezing more than $2 billion in federal funds for Harvard University, hours after the elite college rejected a list of demands from the White House. More than 400 people have been killed in recent attacks by the paramilitary support forces in South Sudan's Darfur region, says the UN, citing credible sources. We take another break to be right back with voices of the newsmakers. Thanks for rejoining us. On our first development, renowned human rights lawyer and political leader of the Liberia People's Party, Councillor Tewun Gongolo, has sharply criticized the Boakai administration over its alleged failure to exercise decisive action against corruption. Speaking Monday during an engagement with members of the University of Liberia Student Unification Party in commemoration of the 46th anniversary of the 1979 Rest Riots, Councillor Gongolo emphasized that the protests were rooted in the government's failure to listen to its citizens.
The Bonga carrying out more than 5 times and use the money for education, health, agriculture, and road building. There is no for long-term void. On this day, the matter is bad for telling speaking truth to power that implementing the price of rice will kill the Liberian people. We are speaking truth to them. Stop the corrupt. It was the same message from the gun that we took the Broom. So strip corruption from the city of Manila and Lake Manila. We have them go down to make sure that we strip corruption from the government of Liberia. Today, people are saying graduation, expensive graduation cost more than the parents are suffering, but the government power is not listening to them. They are crying the uniform that costs $10 and one is sold for $150 or even more in the government. So they give April 14 penny of the people that it is well. We have to keep speaking truth to power. Don't be afraid to do what is right. Don't be afraid to speak truth to power. Even speaking truth to veterans who left the walls of the battle of Liberia. True party doesn't exist anymore. But the true party tendency of misrule still exists. We must keep condemning them. As they don't want to retreat and surrender from it, we militants who want change in Liberia for all Liberians will not surrender. We will not struggle for justice, politics, the struggle against corruption, the struggle for a better Liberia.
His renowned human rights lawyer and political leader of the Liberia People's Party, Councillor Tewun Gongolo, speaking. 46 years after the infamous Rest Riot in 1979, a former student activist and former senator of Rivergate County has shifted blame on the Children Party-led government for the outbreak of violence that led to the death of over 250 persons. Commander Wissett said the government should have allowed the demonstration by providing security protection for the protesters. Speaking in an interview, Wissett argued that it was the constitutional rights of members of the Progressive Alliance of Liberia to stage their protest.
It's on the table here. We let Nima Bwaka
had to take the responsibility for the actions. So there is no way that I would take responsibility and say, I'm sorry, that means I did it. No, I did not do it. That is so again, had I been in the leadership, maybe I would have treated it differently. Because as a student leader, throughout the years that I have been student leader, I had been student leader, I had not been associated with violence, not at all. At the university or before university, high school, and at the university, and subsequently, I had not been associated with violence. I had negotiated things, and in a way, it led us to achieving exactly what we wanted to achieve. You know, but others who wanted to do it, it was a right being exercised. And when you are in government, you take greater responsibility to ensure that such a thing don't degenerate to violence. Organizers of this event did not organize it with stones in hand, with guns, with cutlasses, with anything. They basically said, we will assemble. They were calling it peaceful assembly. From protests, from calling it a protest, a demonstration.
He's former senator of Riverview County, commented, we said, speaking. President Joseph Walker has dedicated the newly renovated rehab market in Painesville. Speaking at the ceremony, the Liberian leader said the project is part of the government's commitment to improving care infrastructure and addressing the urgent needs of underserved Liberians. President Walker lauded the efforts of his government officials for their dedication and vision in bringing this project to fruition. The Liberian leader said the renovation of the rehab market is a testament to what they can achieve when they prioritize the needs of the Liberian citizens.
In this country, we are not here to praise God for presidential community. We are here to improve the lives of our people. Everybody is here, you're going to hear them. Everybody, that's your business. This market here from day one, this company, this market. The last time we sponsored this market, we did estimate as soon as we came to do the right, we did need the market. I don't want to this is not a contract with you. We gave what work around our job is to improve the life of our people. To give them decent facility to be able to help in market people. They are the ones who are contributing to this society. Some of us go to the supermarket. We buy food from people, we order them, and they can build the facility. They don't make much money, but they too have to provide for that food. They support the economy. So we are not looking for freedom. We do what they want, and I don't care whether you pray or not, what you do it. Because I can tell. I feel that for me, we will never dedicate and complicate because for 178 years to find that everywhere we go, we do things for our people. We have to create life so that the people can be blessed. So we don't have to call my name of the do it. That's the reason we are elected us to do the right thing for us. We are going to transform this society. We got to put dignity on our people. We're going to make sure that Nigerians will stay good.
The voice of Liberian leader President Joseph Boakai there speaking at the dedication of the rehab market in Painesville. But if you're just joining us, a reminder you're listening to King's News. We're on the 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. Story following this afternoon, the office of former President George Weah rejects Liberian National Police apology for unprofessional conduct of its officers, describes the unsolicited apology and potentially harboring ulterior political and sinister motives. Montserrat County Senator Abraham Dara Dillon urged the Supreme Court of rendering a confused decision into the House of Representative leadership crisis, says the Senate recognizes Richard Kun as speaker to maintain President Joseph Boakar's legacy. Days after first presidential media dinner, several Liberian journalists have been blacklisted and threatened by government authorities for criticizing the event. Away from Liberia, the Trump administration has said it is freezing more than $2 billion in federal funds for Harvard University, hours after the elite college rejected a list of demands from the White House. More than 400 people have been killed in the recent attacks by the paramilitary support forces in South Sudan's Darfur region, says the UN, citing credible sources. We'll take another break. We'll come back. We continue the program. Thanks for rejoining us and welcome back. Former employees of AFCONS in Grand Bassa County have voiced their disappointment and frustration over the company's refusal to remit their social security benefits. The workers, some of whom have been with the company since as early as 2010 and as late as 2015, claimed they were previously treated fairly regarding their benefits, but their recent attempts to secure these benefits have been met with resistance from AFCONS. According to them, the company allegedly informed them that their contributions were paid into the government account, something this year they are no longer employed. Their benefits should be paid directly into their personal accounts.
We are not working with Apple no more. So how can we open an account and start putting money there? Number one, we've been tracing it and luckily we know Apple store from us. We have a 5 grand check from last year. Number one, we start with Mavi Joe, the coming official, and we start with them. We have conference. Apple have made that yes, we owe your social security money. They left it at that. We enter the new year. So my chairman said we need to go check. We told few people we want to take our 3 month check-in before labor call us. We keep coming here, labor say, but then say that they are going to put the money in your account. After that, you go and check when they pay our way, when they ask for management. We went there, the first thing, because we even enter the elevator to go up, AFCON people were already there. We didn't agree wherever the leadership, because we enter, General said, actually, Baga coming. Before we even reach, they say, oh, I'm having a short meeting with labor director. I don't know his name. So we agreed, we went through the explanation. He couldn't get our chance. I believe that he was on the Indian people's side because he keeps saying that after we made that money. After we made that money, you getting me? After we made that money, but now in individual account. And which of course labor say all they have to verify whether in individual account so we can know when that director told her that the money is in escrow account. So the people know whether they escrow account from 2010 to 2015.
Some aggrieved former employees of AFCONS Liberia in Grand Bassa County speaking. The Office of Bapolo County District 1 representative has suspended 3 Chinese mining companies for non-compliance with community development obligations. The suspension of 3 Chinese mining companies followed an investigative audit conducted by the Office of Representative Zena Norman, which uncovered widespread non-compliance with community development obligations. One company was found initiating operations without securing legal approval. The team reviewed the activities of 8 Chinese-owned mining firms operating at various stages, ranging from exploration to full-scale extraction across the district. According to the audit findings, 3 of the 8 companies failed to meet even basic memorandum of understanding commitments, including infrastructure development, employment promises to locals, and adherence to environmental standards. Speaking with citizens during the investigation, Mohammed Kane, acting under the directive of Representative Zena Norman, said an investigative team, through a survey, observed egregious violation in Bayasu community, where a company identified as Cosmos had moved excavators and ore crushers onto the site without signing an MOU with the local community.
I got running MOU. I call running almost every time. When I call the first area my mind ran on was on the issue of the scholarship for University of Continental children. He said, "Oh, the portal, we thought that the school was in Bobolu, so that the reason why it's not black and white." But the citizens are not even putting that pressure. And they had an MOU. For me, I got it behind closed door. They didn't even know that somebody who closed the rain and I did begging them to the similar MOU. He says he got the MOU, but they can't they're not going to it. So you'll be spoiling the put in need. They come in need, you'll be spoiling. But your citizen should be the one who, because before the post time, they give it to them. Your citizen should be the one. They get the MOU with them, but then they are not giving it to you to read it, to go to know. That means a big bridge in that place. You cannot build that bridge. When you ask, you say the bridge so called 175,000, they post say, I'm going to get that children, just like black. You call during the restaurant, you call the people. Apparently, if you come behind the wall, they gave you 5,000, they gave you 6,000, they gave you 20,000. In that case, that when you hold the company responsible, when they say, who's supposed to put the pressure on it, they're not doing the same. You should be the one, the chairman of the place should be the one to put pressure on the poor. When you got documents, the concluding part of that MOU says, in the event the company do they want in the first year, the most time the company contract and so in that MOU, it may not go more than 1 year. Have anybody come to that contract? No. Do you have the MOU with you? No, you don't have it. You don't even know why you're then putting that MOU for you. So, but for the MOU that will be signed, I will encourage all of you, the children of the place, you can be part of the process, you'll be a witness to it. You don't know what is in the MOU so that tomorrow you can help to protect the people. Because to just come and, if you come and protect, not having even the MOU, you can get it with you. It will look fun. You must be having document to say, but man, you told us in the first 2 months, you're coming to the one, in the table, why not doing it? We'll close it down. Because there will be penalty measure in the event where we'll not do it. Now it's power in the MOU. To conclude, in the event where we'll not do it, that's why it will happen to us. And if you now you compromise, you the son or the daughter of the place, you compromise, you don't blame these people for that. Because by right, you should be the person who will not compromise anything. Because the company will always be willing to compromise. But for you to say if you're not willing to compromise, the way will be done.
The voice of Mohammed Kane, IT under the directive of Representative Zena Noma of Bapolo County, District 1. Montserrat County Senator Darius Dillon has accused the Supreme Court of rendering a confused decision in the impasse at the lower house. According to Dillon, the court did not go down well to resolve the crisis at the House of Representatives. And the further said that the lower house crisis would have damaged President Joseph Walker's legacy if the Liberal Senate had not taken a decision to recognize Representative Richard Cohn as Speaker. Dillon also argued that everything regarding Liberia's governance under the Walker Cohn administration was at the verge of a standstill, something he said would have resulted to a subsequent shutdown of the government.
And it's on the table here. We let Nima Bwaka on his character and reputation, his vision, his experience, and our own conduct as rescue missioners must inform us not to hide it. And it will not be about Joseph Nima Bwaka as president. It must be about us as citizens, lawmakers, leaders, and about the country. About the country. The legitimacy fight in the House of Representatives. The Senate took a decision after the court came up with a confused verdict or ruling. The Senate took a decision that saved this country. Some people didn't get it yet. You know what happened if the Senate has said the House is in confusion? We are not doing business with either of the groups until they put the House in order. Walker, Harris, since December, this country will not have budget. The government will not have budget. We can't pay civil servant salary. We can't pay security people. We can't pay contractors who are doing the roads and other things. Nothing for the government to run on because a group of people in the House of Representatives decide that they will do it their own way and don't care, even if they are from the rescue mission, don't care for the image of the government, don't care for the legacy of Walker, who will fight for our seat. Anyhow, it ends that A. But the Senate, and including some senators, reason when they say the House of Elders, we give stability to this country and the government by the decision we took
by the Supreme Court, from the Supreme Court ruling that was in confusion. The Supreme Court said when the people in majority and the speaker there, or in the after the speaker, the deputy speaker is there, and the in majority, no problem. He said that what the Supreme Court ruling was viewed to have said. They said when the in minority, the speaker there, or in the after the deputy speaker there, they can't do business because in minority they move.
The voice of Montserrat County Senator Abraham Darras Dillon. Lawyers representing defendant Kenneth Wilson says they are not troubled by prosecuting lawyers' request to the court seeking to admit a videotape as part of evidence in the ongoing legal proceedings at the Monrovia City Court. Defense lawyer Councillor James Kume said despite his objection to the purported videotape which implicated his client to the March 31st, 2025 incident at the Stellat Maris Polytechnic University, they still have a strong defense to end this matter before the magisterial court as provided by Lord. Councillor Kuman told our judicial correspondent Monday that the videotape in question was circulated on social media by the victim and her mother, contrary to report that video was exchanged by defendant Kenneth Wilson following the incident. Councillor Kuman further said they have sufficient evidence to show that the defendant was provoked by victim Jumel Kassel on March 31st, 2025.
While it's not done legally on our law, it's not done at all. What harm will it cause when this thing is admitted into evidence? Notice is a cardinal principle of law. To record me, you must put me on notice. I'm recording on you. That can be used as evidence. So who record your client? The Bible prosecutress and her mother did it. Record it. They were not done by any police authority, neither the school authority. Your client pleaded not guilty, and when the evidence is glaring, if you are going to plead guilty, the law says on the principle of due process, she must be represented by a lawyer, and she must plead not guilty, and the court must take evidence to bring her down guilty. Cancel from your account as a PLA. You get a strong defense in this matter. My defense is very strong. Provocation is my defense. So next up to you. Thank you.
The voice of Councillor James Kumet, lawyer representing the interests of defendant Kenneth Wilson at the Monrovia City Court. Montserrat County District 3 representative is calling on the citizenry to petition the Liberian government to withhold the salaries and benefits of all members of the House of Representatives if they refuse to abide by the Supreme Court's pending ruling in the Bill of Information filed by the Mbato House Speaker Funatit Kofa. Kofa has since filed out information to the Supreme Court seeking clarification of the ultra-virus decision reached on the stalemate at the House of Representatives. However, the majority bloc has interpreted the ultra-virus to suit their respective desires, which many persons have described as prolonging the crisis at the House of Representatives. Speaking when he appeared on Nighttime Heat on Prime FM, Representative Sumo Moba said there's a need for Liberians to take the bull by the horn by petitioning the Liberian government to withhold the salaries of all lawmakers from both the majority and minority bloc as a way of sending a strong message.
Some people believe that when you are a lawmaker, it's all about money. But I'm not looking at whether people make money from their house. What I believe in, if the ruling come out and we are still in this saga, then the Liberian people should push. Yeah, the Liberian people should push that we dissolved the House of Representatives. It will be brilliant to have the House of Senate and dissolve the entire thing we call House of Representatives. If they refused to come together under one umbrella to do the Liberian people work, we cannot continue with the debate, the issue of debate. If they refuse and cannot adhere to the court ruling, and they cannot come together after the ruling, then I think the Liberian people should take action. There should be no House of Representatives. Let's prove history this time around. Let me give option 2. I'm saying this, and I want everyone to listen, those Liberians out there. Another option could be the Liberian people. If we cannot come to a point, it means we are not ready to work. Then the Liberian government cannot continue spending money on us.
Okay.
So the Liberian people should protest to inform the president or petition the president that we remain in our saga, those that work, and government withhold all of our pay.
All the lawmakers.
Benefit whatsoever, all lawmakers.
From the
all 73 of us.
Okay.
Right? So if we cannot work to come together, because we should be in the interest of the people. And being in the interest of the people mean reconciliation. We should be one people because we have one voice to speak on. So if we cannot do that, no need for government to waste money on us.
His Monserrate County District Number 3 Representative Sumo Moba. And then finally, away from home, the Trump administration has said it is freezing more than $2 billion in federal funds for Harvard University hours after the elite college rejected a list of demands from the White House. The White House sent a list of demands to Harvard last week, which it said were designed to fight anti-Semitism on campus. They included changes to its governance, hiring practices, and admissions procedures. Since Donald Trump was re-elected, his government has tried to reshape elite universities by threatening to withhold federal funds, mostly spent on research. Harvard became the first major U.S. university to reject the administration's demands on Monday, accusing the White House of trying to control its community. More than 400 people have been killed in recent attacks by the paramilitary rapid support forces in South Sudan's Darfur region, says the UN, citing credible sources. Last week, the RSF launched an intense ground and aerial assault on refugee camps surrounding the city of Al-Fashir in an attempt to seize the last state capital in Darfur, held by the the Sudanese army. The two warring sides have been locked in a bloody power struggle since April 2023. This has created the world's largest humanitarian crisis and forced millions to flee their homes. The UN said it had verified 148 killings between Thursdays and Saturday, but warned the toll was much higher. Well, on that notice, I would like to go home on this edition of the program Case News, run a 45 minutes news presentation about Liberia, Africa, and the rest of the world. But just before we go home, let's remind you of stories we've been following. Office of former President George Weah rejects Liberia National Police public apology for unprofessional conduct of its officers, describes as unsolicited apology and potentially hampering ulterior political and sinister motives. Monserrate County Senator April Hendaras Dillon alleges Supreme Court of rendering a confused decision into the House of Representatives leadership conflict, says the Senate recognized Richard Kuhn as Speaker to maintain President Joseph Boakar's legacy. After first presidential media dinner, several Liberian journalists claim being blacklisted and threatened by government officials for criticizing the event. Away from Liberia, the Trump administration has said it is freezing more than $2 billion in federal funds for Harvard University hours after the elite college rejected a list of demands from the White House. More than 400 people have been killed in the recent attacks by the paramilitary rapid support forces in South Sudan's region, says the UN, citing credible sources. Many thanks to all of our reporters, correspondents, news editors who helped in making this package of sources. My name is Newton Topra. I presented this edition of the program, King's Newsroom. Thanks for listening and watching. Bye-bye.